Hey everyone, it's me, Amy, with Aim to Plan, and I am back with another video in my weekly series, Planner Therapy. So today's video, we are going to be focusing on talking about planning with a mental health disorder. And in fact, this video is not about just general planning. It's more so focused on talking about planning backwards, back planning. And so what does that look like? How can you make that work for you? And how can we avoid some of the pitfalls of mental health issues kind of coming up in the process of back planning. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so for me, I want to address three big questions when we're thinking about the idea of planning backwards or writing things down after things have happened or like a week has passed. And I wanted to be able to show you a couple of things, talk about different strategies that I have used personally and things that I feel like would be helpful for you if you are working through a mental health issue and just running into kind of that place where your planner is low priority and you're just not going to be using your planner. Or just don't have the energy or the mental capacity to be able to use your planner in that moment. How can we still kind of tap into who we are as people, as planners, and be able to think about, process, put down all of the things that happened in a week when it didn't get written down prior to or before the fact. So let's go ahead and jump into a couple of things. I want to say just before we talk about like what I have to cover today, that I want to just say thank you for all of the feedback. I was just blown away by all the comments on the last video, and I'm really excited about this series. It that last video actually got me really motivated and inspired to create, and like I came up with like even more ideas after that last video. So one of the things that I'm been thinking about doing is going ahead and continuing to do these live streams and making them more conversational so that way we can talk together about some of these issues, but also perhaps increasing the like recorded like actual like recorded videos that I have and just posting them on my channel. So if you have any thoughts about that, whether you would like to see that or if you would like the once a week thing, if that was working for you, I know this is like episode 2, so it's not like it's been like a huge amount of time that we've been doing this. But if you have any feedback for me or any comments or suggestions for how this could go, like should I keep the Fridays for like conversations and then just do recorded videos, or should I do a combination, or whatever thoughts you have, please do let me know. I have been again just blown away by all of the feedback that I've already received for the first live. So let's go ahead with all that being said, jump into it. The very first thing that I want you to consider when you think about like planning backwards or back planning um, is what is the purpose that you have for back planning? Now, for me, let's just answer this question at a bigger level, like just planning in general. What's the purpose of my planner? And for me, I use my planners for three main things. So the first one, obviously, is for planning. Um, Now, this is my own personal like take on it. For me, planning is always a forward event. Like if I am planning something, I want to plan for the future. It's not something where I'm planning something in that moment. Like I don't need to plan in this second to, for example, take a sip of coffee. It's not something that I need to do. I took a sip of coffee. I didn't need to write that down in my planner. Now, again, that's just me personally. I feel like planning is a forward event, like a future event. So it's not something like um, if I'm using my planner and I miss a day and like don't have anything written down for that day, it's something where I probably won't go back and write in it. It will just be an empty week. And so that's the very first purpose is it's to plan forward like future events for me. So if there are days where I don't have things in my planner, I I will go through the second step in a second, but like it's something where I have to consider the emotions and deal with and think about why it's empty, or not necessarily why it's empty. I know why it's empty. It's because nothing happened that day and I didn't want to go back and write about current events or things that happened in the past, right? If it's empty because I didn't have anything planned for that day, then it's empty because it served its purpose. It's showing me that I have no plans for that day. The second main purpose for me, and I talked about this in last week's video, for me, one of the big purposes is, especially in using the habit planner, is to do memory keeping. Now, memory keeping for me is kind of the opposite of planning. So planning, again, for me personally, is planning in the for the future. Memory keeping is planning backwards or like planning for the past. And I find that funny to say because I don't believe planning in the past is a real like is a thing. Again, my own personal stance on it. So memory keeping is like just taking note of all of the things that happened in the past or documenting the past. I guess that's a better way of saying it. So it's documenting the past, just like planning is documenting the future for me personally. So memory keeping was the reason I got into the Happy Planner. So I started using the Happy Planner in order to have a memory book for my daughter, Sophia. She's 4 this year. And so for the Happy Planner, I've been using the Happy Planner since 2017. And we're in our 5th set of books, memory books for Sophia. And so it's the one consistent thing that I've been doing with the Happy Planner. And so certainly memory keeping for me, documenting backwards or things in the past, is absolutely something that I use my planner for. And so those are the first two, planning and memory keeping. The third thing that I do is document things in the current moment. And so for me, that's journaling. And so journaling is something that, like there's something happening in a current moment. And I just think that I need to write it out or just kind of process it through writing. And so journaling is a big component for me in terms of using a planner or like the Happy Planner. And so it's where I might not necessarily journal every day, but there's certain things that I need to do currently that I really like. There are emotions I'm feeling or things going on in my life that I feel like I just need to write out. And so that there's something in the present moment that I feel like I need to document. So really at the end of the day, I use my planners for all three kind of time frames, past, present, and future. I just think of the purposes to be a little bit different, and I like get to an end decision on what I do with my planners based on these three kind of time frames a little bit differently. And as I go through the rest of this, I'll give you some examples or like talking through like my own personal process when I do these things. Right. So again, for me, the purpose for my planners are one, an actual planner where I'm tracking things in the future. Two, as a memory keeper where I'm documenting things in the past. And then three, as a journal where I can write out some of the things that are happening in the present moment. Now, for everyone's going to have something a little bit different. So your purposes for your planner or planners might be something a little bit different. You really just have to sit with it and think about what your ultimate purpose is. And it could be multiple purposes, just like I named 3 things. It could be where you have one thing, you could have 5 things. Just go ahead and think about what your purpose is, whether it's one or more purposes for your planner, and make note of those things. Now, I'll also like before I switch to the next thing, I'll go ahead and tell you that the questions that I'm asking in today's video, I actually have included in the description for this video. So you can go ahead and take a look at those questions and kind of follow along if you'd like to. So again, the first question, what is the purpose of your planner or planners? Okay. Second question that I want you to ask yourself and as you think about planning is a very simple question. When you think about planning, what are some of the emotions that come up when you think about planning? So what is it about planning that makes you happy, makes you sad? Are there things that are overwhelming about planning? One of the things that we're going to talk about or like kind of at least try to work through today is some of the negative things that we can kind of associate with planning. So what are some of the negative emotions that come up when we deal with or think about like what it looks like for us to plan personally. So again, I told you my purpose is forward, backwards, and in the current moment. Those are my 3 purposes. So for me, I have different emotions attached to all of those things. So again, just kind of starting at the beginning and working our way through the entire list. Again, for me personally, my first purpose is planning for the future. And so when I think about like what it looks like for me emotionally to be able to plan, that actually makes me really happy. I feel like I'm in control of my life if I'm able to write things down. It doesn't have to be pretty at all. My personal planner is actually very functional. Like there are very little stickers that happen in there. And so I just write it down. Like it's meant to be for me a planner where things are just functional. I cross things out. I make to-do lists. Like it's in my messy writing. It's not in the pretty writing that I use for the memory book. And so that is what I do with my personal planner, like the actual planner that I'm tracking things of for the future. And so when I think about planning in my planner with that specific purpose in mind, it actually brings me a lot of joy just because like that's why I consider myself a planner. It's because it feels good for me to be able to kind of like be in control of the events that I have going on in my life, and to be able to write it down. It doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to be functional. And I'm able to write those things down and just move forward, and look forward to those things, anticipate those things, and just kind of have a track, like a document that, or a place where I can track those things and document those things and not forget them. Okay, so that's the first purpose. Now, again, the second purpose that I have is memory keeping. Memory keeping is documenting in the past, as I've already mentioned. And for me, when I think about like planning backwards, and doing things backwards and putting things together for my daughter in her memory book, the big thing for me is that it can be overwhelming. So one of the big emotions that I feel when I think about memory keeping, especially if I'm like really, really behind, is that I just do not. Sometimes I just get overwhelmed and I just have to walk away from it. Um, that then leads into a bunch of other emotions for me personally, where, I'm behind, I get anxiety about it, I think that I will start forgetting stuff, and I do forget stuff. I really do, honestly. Like, if it's been like a week, I'm just not going to remember what happened in a week, if it's like a week or two out. So I get overwhelmed with the idea of like, keeping up with a memory book. And so it's one of those things where, you can hear like there's a negative emotion there, right? Like, I'm feeling overwhelm and anxiety related to keeping up with the memory book. And so, we have to take that negative emotion, and we'll move into the next step in just a minute, specifically with the memory book. But I want you to at least make note and acknowledge that you might feel negative feelings about your planner, in the sense of like, there's something that feels overwhelming or anxiety provoking, or just like maybe sad and depressing about your planner. And there's some emotions, and it's your own personal emotions. It's just a need for you to acknowledge those things, and just be aware that these are emotions that you feel. It's not something, that at the end of the day, you have to tackle head on. We just need to be able to put strategies in place to maybe prevent those feelings from coming up for you, or maybe just put together a strategy that just works around the problem altogether. And again, I'll talk about strategies at the end of this. Okay, so for me, again, like my memory book, it's probably the part, that I struggle with the most in terms of my planning system. Like, it was, in past years, just something really hard for me, to keep up with. I felt really overwhelmed with it. I'll show you an example of this in just a second too. And I just ended up kind of giving up for a while with it, and was beating myself up about it. And I was just saying, like, it's something where, I don't have it looking pretty, and what's the point of even keeping up with it? And so it was just a really difficult place to be in, to kind of like feel overwhelmed by the project that actually brought me to the happy planner to begin with, memory keeping. So that's the second one. Again, like, I've talked about planning, I've talked about memory keeping. The third purpose that I have is journaling. And so this was question number one, right? What's the purpose? For me, the answer to what's the purpose and what emotions come up for me if I'm planning and journaling, the emotion for me is like a sense of like relief. Like, if I'm journaling, I feel really good about journaling. Like, journaling gets the thoughts in my head out on paper. I'm able to kind of like sit and process, and kind of just write out and think about and like try to put sentences together in a logical way. And it's a lot of that just helps me kind of connect the dots for myself. So I, generally speaking, when I journal, I feel a big sense of relief. Now, for all of these different areas, for me personally, the areas where I can let slide, like if I don't journal and I don't plan in a day, those things do not bother me whatsoever. And like, I can have empty pages in my planner, I can have empty pages in my journal, or I can skip a couple of days in my planner, or skip a couple of days in my journal, skip weeks or months even in my journal or my planner, and I feel totally fine with that. So you have to also, in addition to thinking about like what it's like when you think about these categories or these purposes that you have in general, also think about what it's like if you left those things untouched for a while. Like, for me, my planner, if I didn't do my planner for a while, I'd be okay. If I didn't journal for a while, I'd be okay. I'm not saying I'd be perfect or I'd feel the best that I would feel. I certainly wouldn't feel that. I feel like I would be missing something, but I wouldn't feel so down on myself that I would be beating myself up about it or feeling super anxious about it. But for me personally, the one thing that does create that sense for me is going to be my memory book. When I think about my memory book, and again, for me, memory keeping is just documenting the past. I want to be able to, and the purpose for this is to be able to give Sophia something that documents her life. And I feel like a really kind of big weight of responsibility for dealing with that, and being able to put together something for her that she enjoys looking at. And if I'm not able to do that, and there are missing weeks in there, I feel very overwhelmed with that. So, what do I do to deal with it? And we're going to talk about that and talk through some of the things that I have done that I feel like are very helpful. And hopefully, they are things that you can adapt for yourself. So, again, like I'm following through the list of questions. These are posted in the description of the video, so you can answer these questions. If you have questions in the, like, if you're here on the live stream and you have questions, feel free to drop them in the comment box and I will, or in the live chat. Again, I don't actually know if the live chat even works, honestly, but you can leave me a comment later and I'll respond to it. Or if you can access the live chat, feel free to leave me a message and I'll try to respond to it. But going through these steps again, like the purpose, what is the purpose of your planner? What are the emotions that come up when you think about your planners? And then lastly, this specific question is really focused on the negative emotions. Okay, so just to tell you what this looks like, for me, I am sitting here just kind of well, first of all, I guess let me just back up. For me, if it's really easy. If you have a positive emotion related to your planners, you're going to do it anyway, right? Like just as an example, I personally find it completely fine to leave my planner blank. And if my planner is empty and I'm okay with that, then I'm not going to feel any kind of negative emotion when I have blank pages and I can just move on. Or if I get like a burst of inspiration, I'm going to just go back and use my planner. And it's not going to be something that like feels overwhelming to me. So again, I've already kind of like talked this through with you from my personal perspective. But for me, the one thing that is overwhelming for me is my memory book for my daughter. I like, just full disclosure here, like I had a period like in 2017 when she was born. She was born in January of 2017. I did a great job of keeping up with it in December and January. And then February, March, April, and May, those 4 months, I went through a period of like postpartum depression. And so I ended up not doing anything with the memory book. It was literally blank. It was just blank pages. I would leave it open on my desk and I would just say, okay, I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to print out photos. I need to put down things. Otherwise, I'll forget it. And again, full disclosure, I did forget a lot of it. But I was also able to, like in the process of doing that, like really get like really down on myself. I was beating myself up. I was just kind of like, you know, I'm like doing a terrible job with this. I'm not able to kind of keep up with it the way that I wanted to. So there were lots of like really negative emotions. Okay. So for this step planning, like we really only need to put together a strategy for these negative emotions that we feel. So whatever that might be for you, this video might not be for you. You might just love all of your planners, not feel overwhelmed or stressed out or depressed or sad when you think about all your planners. And if that's the case, then you're going to use your planners as they're meant to be used, however you designated them to be used. For me, on the other hand, like I really struggled, especially at the beginning of 2017, with this period of just not being able to do it. And so let me go ahead and switch cameras and show you what this looks like for me. And I'm going to fix it here so you can kind of see this. Hopefully it's not too crooked. I watched back my last week's video and it wasn't quite as bad as I was making it out to be, but there's some issues with my light kind of sagging. But let me go ahead and flip cameras, and I have already opened this up so you can kind of see this. But this is an example of one of the spreads that I have in my memory book. Now this memory book is from 2017. Taking a sip of coffee. So this memory book is from 2017. And this is April. I mentioned just a little while ago that for me, the beginning, like the first couple of months of April, especially like, well, it was spring semester and then going into summer semester, or like those summer months were really, really rough for me. Again, like I had a little bit of postpartum depression. Actually, I thought it was really bad. It wasn't severe to the point of like, being suicidal, but it was certainly where I was definitely unmotivated. I was like crying pretty much every day. And so like of all the things on my list of things to do, like putting together a memory book was definitely very, very low on the list. And so this is just an example of a page that I put together. You can see here that on this page, there's literally like just one thing that's written in. I'll flip back a page just so you can see this. I try to avoid like pages with like like photos of my husband. He just doesn't want to be on video. But like this, you can see here, like I put down some things and I wrote in a couple of things, but mostly it's just like photos that I stuck in. And this week specifically, like I wrote in like the date. And I had a bunch of photos here that were for April 30th. And so this one was an extra photo that I put here. But this is just photos. Now I'll also tell you, like for this specific book, memory book, the 2017 book, these photos ended up in here in 2019. I ended up like pretty much putting these photos in 2 years later. That's how overwhelmed I was by thinking about this and doing this. And it was just really, really rough for me. So I put this together 2 years later. That's a long time. I'm also like really proud of myself that I went back and did it. Because like for 2 years, this page was literally blank. Like it was just April 24th through 30th, nothing on it. Now, the one thing that for me, memory keeping, was really a good chance for me to go back and remember the memories. And of course, like some weeks I don't have anything, like right here, or I meant some weeks, but some days I don't have anything. It's completely blank. I have no idea what happened April 28th. Like no idea. But I was, because she was a newborn, Sophia was a newborn, like clearly we took a lot of photos. And so I had enough photos to kind of fill it in. But really, this page is just a good indicator of what my state of mind was. I am not I'm not able to do anything here, right? Like I was able to take photos, screenshots from my phone. Luckily, none of those photos got deleted, because if I did, we would have a problem because I would have nothing for this page. So I just want you to like not beat yourself up. Like I did really beat myself up quite a bit. And then in 2019, I just sat down and I got a burst of inspiration, motivation. I'm like, I'm just gonna do it instead of like, just letting it be a thing that's just hanging over myself. I am going to just do it. And Heather, thank you so much. Yes, I am so happy that I was able to kind of go back and create these pages, just because it was just a huge burden for myself. I was putting like this, like so much weight on myself to be able to like put these pages together. And so like for this, I literally just put down the photos, wrote that this was on the 30th because it was an extra thing, but there is no writing, no journaling, no nothing, right? It's just the photos that I had on my phone and I put them here. I'll show you another example. And again, I'm trying to avoid photos of my husband just because he doesn't want to be on video. But like, let me just give you this example. This is May of the same year, 2017. And in May, what I decided to do was I decided to try to switch it up and put my planner, like my actual work tasks in here. I didn't even bother, like you can see here, I wrote them down, but I don't even know if I did it or not, to be perfectly honest with you. I wrote it in and I didn't even check it all. Like I have no idea. May was a really bad month for me, I think. I wrote these things down like probably in like March or April. Again, like as a planner, I'm planning forward. And so I wrote these things down. And then they were all like, these are actual sticky notes that I glued down, but like they're on sticky notes, and I put them in here and I didn't even check it off. I don't know if I did it. I don't know what happened. And then these right here, I'll try to put a link to the flip through of this memory book, but these are like photos that I have. And I, again, took a bunch of photos because, she's young at this point, she's an infant. And so I ended up like being able to kind of find photos, and I took a lot of photos in May at least. And so I was able to put them in this setup right here. But like you can see here, and I'll just show this to you. This is the divider for May. This is the monthly spread for May. And then what I did was taped down June. Like it's just taped down. There's nothing, no weeklies whatsoever, right? And so with all that being said, let me go ahead and give you some of the strategies that I have, and I'm going to move this stuff around. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in. I am more than happy to answer any questions that you have, or just address any comments that you have. I'm taking like a 2-second peek here while I drink another sip of coffee. Oh, Heather, I'll give you thank you so much for watching. I'm going to show you a couple of things. Now, there are a couple of, for me, again, like planning is really important. If you are feeling really negative about it, and you're just kind of like, oh, I need to do something to address it. And I have 3 tips for you, and we're going to walk through them, that I feel like will well, I shouldn't say I feel like. I think that they might be something that is helpful to you, and is something that you can kind of do for yourself. Okay, so the very first one is very simple. Like, ignore all this that's out here. The very first tip that I have for you is to do what I did in my memory book. Just hide it. Just pull those pages out and be completely okay with not having whatever it is. Just take it out, consider it unused pages, and just go from there, right? Like what I did here for May was like pull out all of the weekly pages and just be totally okay with that. That's my first strategy here. I am like, here we go. That's it. I am done. Right. And it was not perfect. It was definitely not perfect. I am not here to say that I have like a perfect memory keeping system, but my first plan, like, and I did that for a lot of this book, was just to hide it. Okay. I also, step two, like plan number two, strategy number two, is just focus on making it decorative. Okay. And so this is for me the second strategy, just make it decorative. So this is what this is. Okay. So I mentioned in last week's video that, there is no reason for, well, I shouldn't say no reason, but like I am going to try to encourage you to make it functional. There's really no requirement for stickers, but I went ahead and made this so you can kind of see what this looks like. I went through. This was a week that I ended up not, like, I'm looking and the dates are like completely off, right? I tend to use outdated planners for this specific reason, just because if I miss a week or skip a week, I am just going to like redate it and be fine with it and not feel like the overwhelm of like having these missed weeks, right? So I made this just decorative. This is from July 2020 with a missed week that I have no idea where it is. And so this week, I just didn't do it. And really, at the end of the day, this is just like an example page that I put together. But if you have weeks like this and you're just like, I can't take that page out of my planner, I want it to be there. I want it to be part of my planner for the entire year. One of the things that you can do is just take some of these stickers and just lay them down. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, you don't actually have to have plans in there. Now, this goes back to the very first question. What is the purpose of your planner? If your planner is meant to be something that you look back on and like feel happy about, one of the ways that you can do that is to put stickers down and just make it decorative and just make it look like this. This is pretty. It has no plans on it, but it's pretty, and I feel better about like not having it be empty. Okay, so for me, the second strategy is to just make it decorative. Put these stickers down, just fully decorate it, and be okay with it just being fully decorated with no plans in place. Okay, now I'm going to flip the page here. Oh, here's the number two. I just put it out of order. All right, so it should have been like this, right? This is whatever. Mistake number one of like, I'm sure thousands as I go through the series. All right, but what we're going to do now is what I think of as like the functional version of this. Now, I tend to be a functional planner, and so this is going to be a combination of like a couple of different things that I feel like will be beneficial for you, especially if the overwhelm that you're going through is related to like a mental health issue. Okay, and so for me, the third strategy is to make it functional. So I, again, like I've been trying to keep these videos at 30 minutes, so I might go for just a few minutes. I am going to bring out this Sharpie marker just because writing in marker, it takes me less time to do that. But for me, again, I use my planner to be purely functional. And one of the things that I like to do, like this is actually July, so I might actually do this and use this like legitimately for the reason. Like for me, one of the things that I use for my planner is to make notes of big things that are happening. And I mentioned this in last week's video, like there is no requirement for stickers, right? Like for me, my planner can be purely functional. I'll try to make it pretty. I'll do that here to try to make it pretty. I'm putting in my own version of a colorful box. I can't actually draw straight lines either, really. But I'm going to put it here because July 4th, which this really is July 4th, I think. I just placed it like in the wrong spot. So this is July 4th. So I'm going to make this box. It's not perfect, but again, like this is my planner. I don't really need it to be perfect, right? And this is July 4th. So this is Independence Day. Now, I do try to at least write pretty. This is probably going to, all right, ran out of room. Independence Day. Okay, good. I'm done. Now, for this week, whichever week, like I'm gonna have to flip this because I feel like it's gonna distract me. Okay, so for this week, I have basically July 4th written down. For me, that could be like the only thing that happens, and then I go back. And obviously this is like already messed up, but like if that's the only event that I have, okay, that's cool. And I'll just leave it at that. If it overwhelms you to have these empty pages, one of the things I encourage you to do is this may be just like kind of a strange strategy, but I would encourage you to like go back or flip through your sticker books and pick a quote, right? I'm going to call it making lines. This is really is just journaling, but pick something that you feel like um, speaks to you in that moment. Like the one that really stuck out to me was this one, be true to you. This one also too, don't put off your happy life. But this one, especially like if I'm going through like a really bad week, be true to you really like speaks to me. I'm just kind of like, I don't have to pretend to be happy when I'm not. Like I'm just not happy this week, and that's okay. And so what I'm going to do is actually encourage you just to use this space to write. Now I'm going to show you an example of this. Like this is actually something that the Happy Planner does. They have these quotes right here that are kind of just like lines, right? And there's nothing. I mean, obviously it's a sticker, so they could correct it and edit it, but there's nothing that says that you can't do the same thing. Okay, and I'm not going to do it for the entire page. And again, I'm using the Sharpie just for time's sake, but you can use a pen, you can use whatever you need to get this going for you. All right, and I'm just going to write this just over and over again. This is for me very like there's like some catharsis that I feel when I'm able to do this. All right, I might misspell some things too because I'm chatting and talking at the same time. But I'm just gonna write. And I missed a word, but that's okay. I don't want it to be like repeated, so I'm just kind of like pretending that they're off center, but I'm just gonna write the entire way down. Like there's something about the repetitiveness of writing the same phrase over and over again, that is truly like tapping into like letting yourself feel the emotions that you have, and allowing yourself to be okay where you are. So I'm only going to do like this first box just because I think you get the point. And in fact, I'll stop with this very last line. But just write it out, like fill the entire page. I am going to once I finish, I'll off camera kind of write all of these out. I'm going to post a photo of this on my Instagram. So please do, if you haven't already, get connected with me on Instagram. I'll put the link. I think the link is already in my description box. Just go ahead and take a look. I will start posting more photos. The goal for me is to try to increase the number of videos related to mental health, and like mental health related photos on my Instagram. Is it a channel on Instagram? I have no idea. But I'm going to stop here for this line. But I'm going to over on Instagram, post it once I finish for the entire page and show you what that looks like, right? So I don't want to keep you like forever. Again, like the goal here is to be able to like try to wrap it up like definitely less than an hour. But I do want to also, let me switch over to this camera. I do also want to, like, if you have any questions or comments or something that you definitely want me to talk about in the next couple of videos, please do let me know. I am more than happy to take any questions that you have or just kind of talk you through anything that you're currently struggling with. And I mentioned this at the very beginning of the video too. One of the things that I'm considering, and if you have any feedback for this, let me know. I'm considering moving to like even after this episode, potentially recording some videos and just laying out some things that are a little bit longer to set up, and put some videos that are just like strict recorded videos that I just upload to my channel. If that's something that you're interested in, please just let me know if there's something that you'd like to see there. I find that like I can ramble. Obviously, I can talk about a lot of this for a long time. It's something that I just feel very strongly about. And so if there's something that you want to see that might not be served well for me kind of explaining and then like doing in a short time, there's something a little bit longer that you'd like to see me kind of do, please do let me know and I'll be more than happy to add that. Okay. So again, like I'm trying not to keep you here for too long. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. I am so glad to see you here. I am going to again post this on Instagram so you will be able to see that. And until the next video, Bye.